my director training.
I have more.
Hi, here we're back with the Method Actor Speaks. I'm John Solari. This is part 3. We had a little plumbing problem, and we're getting that fixed now.
Not with this, though.
No, not with this. But we're back with Nadine Bass, who's a gift from the Actors Studio, along with Sharon Farrell, my co-host. And I'm going to let you go on. You were going to talk about script supervisor. Well, I think it's one of the hardest jobs on a set. You got to remember everything.
Yeah, you kind of don't have any room for your personality or any thoughts about life in general. You only have room for the movie in your head. What has been shot, what's going to be shot, and
where everybody's moving their hands on which line and everything. It's
well,
incredible.
You have to be marking that as you go. And I had a system of tipping things a certain way, tipping it and writing the number of the tape, things like that. I got to know a lot of actors.
That's the plumber. If you hear something, it's just the plumber. I think they're on their way out. Maybe.
Besides growing up and being around the Actors Studio and studying with Lee, which were separate. It was all there were so many different variations on that. I don't know if I mentioned that I think I did mention about being in Lee's directing class.
Yes.
And that he would have in LA and then in New York. I was one of the Lee 3. Lee would have 3 people only that he would take LA, New York, back and forth and keep with him all year long. And I became one of those people right away. And I basically spent almost every single day with him from the time I was a teenager until he died, almost 3 years.
Wow.
Just about 3 years. Later, we came to class in New York, and they said he's passed. And I remember I woke up. A friend of mine was staying over from LA, and we both kind of sat up straight in bed at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and was, what's wrong? What's wrong?
You had a feeling that he had passed. Something.
I didn't know what happened. We just had a weird feeling, and then when we got there, they said, "Yeah, he passed early this morning." And he was, great guns the day before. And there was a great memorial at the Schubert Theater, and Al Pacino was probably the best speaker of all of these incredible people. And he said that he wanted to play Shylock to Al Pacino on, and Ellen had always said she wanted to play Portia.
Ellen Burstyn.
Ellen Burstyn wanted to play, thank you, I think in the whole world knows who these people. Another brilliant method actor and teacher that I was lucky enough to be in the room with over the years. They wanted to do Merchant of Venice with Lee, and she was really begging him, and Al wanted to be in it. And he later played Shylock, much like Lee's personality, and with Lee's, sinus drip, and
so he really snuck into his personality and used Lee as his.
It was kind of an homage, I guess. But anyway, at the funeral, the producers at the theater said to Lee, "What are you dreaming?" And Lee said, "Yeah, I may be dreaming, but you're sleeping," because they just couldn't grasp it. And it got a big. I'm sorry, Al, I didn't do justice to your joke, but it was Lee was able to see things that were not what he was ahead of his time.
Way ahead of his time.
Way ahead of his time. He didn't see any boundaries or understand why there should be any boundaries. And
why do you think he felt that? Well, you knew the man. Can we ask you a little bit about that, or is that personal?
I'll talk about anything because it's there for information to perpetuate and continue to perpetuate art, because people will always need to express. There will always be great artists. Will there always be a vehicle, a craft that bring them together? I've been lucky in honing in on finding these places at different points in my life. I made it my business to start at the Actors Studio. I made it my business to start by being around Lee Strasberg. I was with Lee in the private classes, back and forth, LA, New York. And when he died, I went to sessions at the Actors Studio and saw Ellen Burstyn, Lee Grant, Eli Wallach, Elie Kazan, Madeline Sherwood, Vivian Nathan. Al Pacino was a great moderator. Paul Newman was a very brief speaking moderator. Anyway.
Anthony Francioso, Shelley Winters.
Okay,
Yeah.
Here's a story. I was with Shelley. I'll go back to how I was with Shelley, but I took Shelley to the Actors Studio one Friday session. I believe Paul Newman was moderating, and you had Maggie Maggie and Savannah on, and Maggie talked about the scene she did that day.
Maggie Wagner?
Maggie Wagner, yeah. But there was another scene with a friend, Corinne Chateau, and another brilliant actress and director, longtime friend. And first, as we're coming up the stairs, those on
Right.
the stairs and through the door to the church, what was the church?
In New York, we're
Syria,
talking
yeah,
about.
the room. And this handsome, elderly, gray-haired man, very well groomed, handsome, said, "Hi, Shelley. It's your third husband." And she didn't recognize Anthony Franciosa.
Right, I remember.
And they cracked her up all day long, and everybody's laughing about it. That was the first part of the day. Then this friend of ours was doing a scene, and Paul opened up to the members to
Teach.
comment, and the moderator would always finish the critique at the end. And Shelley started saying things that were extremely personal and confidential about her friend, the actress. And it upset the actress quite a bit.
Well, you can't say who it was, right?
Well, I did say
Who was
it. It was a girl named Corinne.
Oh, Corinne,
And,
okay. And she
and
was like making comments about
Shelley
her
was-
acting, or?
No, Shelley was just bringing up personal things.
Just talking to
Because
her
they
and
were
just.
friends. No, it's the critique time.
Oh.
Shelley's giving her opinion on the critique of the scene, and she got into some very personal, private information.
Like what?
Well,
Just
it
make
upset
up
my
something.
friend. It upset my friend, so I don't want to talk about it. But Shelley said some personal things to her that.
Like, I know you wear falsies or something like that?
Oh no! No,
Nothing catty.
No. It was about what her choices would be, and
Oh, the choices in the
scene.
scene.
The Actors Studio is talking about nothing but the scene. You've never been to a session?
No, I never have.
Oh, okay. So
No.
there's nothing to discuss but the work, and all you do is discuss. Did you see them? Do you see what? This is what I chose to work on, and then the members only comment on what they saw working, what they saw not working.
They don't comment or say things like you made the wrong choice. They don't. Do they get upset about
That-
the person's choice?
Saying making the wrong choice is so broad and vague that it's just not even a sentence that would
Oh, okay.
happen in that room.
Okay.
It's how did you go about executing that choice? What somebody could use Robert De Niro was said to have used a crab as part of his character work for Taxi Driver.
Mm-hmm.
In his physical mannerisms, the way he walked and everything.
moved.
And, you know, nobody would say that's a wrong choice. They
Oh,
would
good.
say,
They don't like mess around with your choices.
It's just not like that. They discuss what's working and what's not working, and if things
Because
need to be
I was in
changed-
Theater West, and Marty Landau was there, and a lot of members from Actor Studio were there, and we just never messed around with people's choices. You know, we just, you know, they chose to be a crab. You know, they chose a crab or I can't think of a choice that's a good example. But I'm sorry. Go on. I shouldn't have interrupted you.
what was I saying? Anyway, Shelley brought up
Some personal.
what she thought Corinne was using. She just thought that's what Corinne was using as a choice, and it was something personal about Corinne's personal life, family, or something that was completely inappropriate to be discussed. Nobody in the room really knew what Shelley meant, what she was talking about.
Did she get through to Corinne? Did Corinne change her performance in any way, or did she learn from it?
Well, this is a critique, so the
Yeah.
scene's over.
Oh, so you don't get to go back and do it again?
Another week, you can rebook it and come back another
You
time.
can't just like, well, let me try that and then just
It's not a
do it.
class.
Yeah, okay.
So it upset her quite a bit, and Paul was the moderator, and Paul got things calmed down and got Shelley to, you know, simmer down and be quiet.
Yeah.
And then there was a certain point where he said, okay, so does anybody else would anybody else like to come? Does anybody else have anything to say? Except Shelley. And, and everybody laughed, because Shelley was kind of scooped up in her chair. But she
Lou Antonio doesn't. He's the only one that comments on the scenes when you have a class with Lou Antonio.
But that's a
he's
class.
the only one.
That's a
oh,
class.
I see. This is
the actor studio's not a class.
Okay, well, I guess I don't know. I guess I got mixed up. I thought he was part of the actor studio.
He may be, but the sessions are not a class. The sessions
are a
the se-
scene, and then everybody comments on it.
No. The sessions start, I think they start at 10 or 11, and there's usually 2, and they get an hour, pretty much an hour each, of doing the scene and then the critique. And there's a moderator that heads the discussion, and only members are allowed to comment. First, the actors are asked, what were your choices? What were you working on? How was it for you? How was it working for you? What wasn't it working for you? And then only people that are experienced enough to engage in the conversation, the members, if they feel they have something to contribute. I saw this working, I was confused here, I saw once the emotion came, I didn't see the character or as much, or you know, they will elaborate very specifically on what about the technique was working, what they weren't sure of. It's all about just the technique. It is not a personal thing. And the moderator then summarizes what the other people say to a certain extent and gives their spin on it, and that's it. And then there's another scene, and it's the same thing. And there's 2 per session, and that's it. In Lee's private classes, you would have 2 hours of relaxation sensory work, take a break, and then there would be 2 hours of scenes. And no one but Lee commented in the private classes. You were just there for Lee, and it was a small group, and that group never changed. It was just those people. You did an hour of relaxation, moving your body in these different ways to break up the habitual blocks and locks of tension that are holding in traumas in your body, eventually to release them. And when they would finally come up and take over, Lee would come to you and he would work you through it. And basically, he would say, what did you want to say at that moment that you didn't say, that you couldn't say? And you were never allowed to do anything but talk about, I feel cold, or I feel, it's just the senses. What you don't say, I think this was happening. No, just I feel cold under my feet. I feel something hard. I feel heat in my sun in my eyes. You know, you and these things that reawaken the senses of the experience bring the virus back to life. And when you are then able to express the thing you were not able to, that you were stuck, you then own the experience. You can then use the experience, and by use the experience, it's prime your senses, relax, and recreate your senses experiencing what happened in that trauma. Just the temperature, what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you feel. No conversation, no thoughts, no ideas. It's just getting the actual muscles to re-experience, and that is what brings the emotion. You can't force it, you can't talk it. Otherwise it's just intellectual. This is sensory sensory experiences, and that was what changed acting, period, in film and in theater, from somebody who throws their hand down and drops a handkerchief, that means they're dead, to somebody who is sensorially experiencing
The pain
physical
of that,
pain in a specific place.
Yeah. And just what's going on in your body. If you just listen to your body, wherever it is at that moment.
You're not listening to your body. You're creating.
The pain.
You're creating what your body knows, so that the body can then do what it knows.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. The creating kind of throws me
I don't mean
because
to split words.
No.
and be,
Well, it's like that though.
But it's very specific.
It is specific, and going after something is specific, and it's like a death kind of thing, where sometimes you have to. I've died so many times on film, and they're always fun scenes to do. Death scenes are always like a lot of fun, I think.
The best death I ever saw was I got in to see Robert De Niro do a play at the Public Theater, Cuba and his teddy bear, and I don't know how to explain the experience other than I really thought he was dead.
What did he do? Technically.
Well, he was shot and he went face down, but there was no movement of any kind in him. There was no soul, there was no personality. I've never seen anything like that. And he was on the stage for a long time.
Dead. Whoa, that's hard to do, not to twitch or something, or not to move your eyes, or if, God forbid, you'd die with your eyes open. That's really tough.
His body had no life in it.
Wow.
For like a half an hour or something. I couldn't believe it. It was almost like I couldn't watch the rest of the play.
You were just watching him. Yeah, you were
and
just watching him.
He's always been very agile and learned martial arts and things like that, so he's very capable with his body. But
he goes for it too. Remember when he gained all that weight to play that boxer?
I ditched school because they were filming that in my hometown, and I did not recognize him. I ditched school and went down to watch them filming at Dancing Waters in Scorsese, the whole set, the whole crew was there, everything, and they were filming some of the parts where he was in Florida.
Yeah.
They were doubling it in my hometown, and I didn't recognize him for a half an hour. Finally, one of the guys, they said, you know, that's him, because the movie wasn't out. They were filming it, and I didn't know that he was gaining all that weight and everything.
It's very dangerous for your body to do that. I mean, it's
He was really.
I turned down a role because they wanted me to gain like 40 pounds, and you know they film the thin part first, and then they let you eat, and then after the film you're stuck with like your health problems. You know,
Shelley used to do that.
Brenda Vaccaro did the role that I turned down because it was like I can't remember the name of the film, but it was the film that she was breaking up with her husband and everything else, and she goes from you know, she's big and fat and everything, and then he leaves her, and then she gets herself together and gets all thin and goes on.
And they shot it in reverse?
Yeah, because, you know, they're not going to shoot you fat and then wait for you to get thin. They shoot you like you are, and then they want you take off for, you know, a month, and then they take up the shooting after you gain 40 pounds.
Brenda Vaccaro was a great actor.
Yeah,
She really,
well, I
after Midnight Cowboy, after that, but I mean, she just, I don't know whatever happened to her. She just got lost in the shuffle.
She appears
now and then.
She's
Now and then,
there.
but I
She's
mean,
there.
I don't see her at the studio either. She
She's
hasn't come
married
back.
to when she was married to Douglas. You know.
I did get to work with John Voight once. I got to, Dustin Hoffman once came to my class that I was in with Lee, and it was amazing when you're really concentrated on your exercise. You're not fazed by looking out and seeing a face like Dustin Hoffman when you're really focused.
That was one of the things I noticed about the studio was we were all peers there. Whether you were Paul Newman or John Solari or whoever you were, we were all on an equal base because we all had to audition. That's what the one thing the studio gave you. You were all equal because you had to audition.
Well, on the heels of that, the creativity of each person being a peer, I found to stimulate and raise everybody's bar, everybody's level. And this is another thing that I don't really see anymore. I had been around a group of writers like that. There was a poetry group that I was around where everybody was supportive, everybody was top rate. And I was in different cities when they were the center of the world for music. You know, like I was in London, when London was the center of music, in LA and New York. And when everybody is sharing their creativity and each has their own individual spin on it, and they're being accepted for their own individual spin, they talk about it, they inspire each other.
It's just the plumber. It's just no big deal. Plumbers are a part of life, you know.
No.
Who cares?
Look, we're almost at
Bang,
the
bang,
end.
bang. Go on.
Okay, and in Seattle, in the early 90s, when they were the center of the music world, I was working on a movie for a very talented actress, director, Jennifer Warren, who has been a dear friend and mentor. And she started a group called the Alliance of Women Directors that I've been a part of ever since. And
Are you part of Women in Film?
yeah, but that's a little different. That's kind of
Yeah.
a big, broad thing. And
You're kind of
Okay.
that one.